And we're live. Welcome everyone to the first ever Outlet Pass podcast here on rotoden.com. My name is Nick Fox. I'm a Rotoden OKC contributor here on the site, and alongside me, good friend of mine and my roommate as we are recording this first ever podcast sitting in our sweet bedroom. It's Jason DeStefano.
Hey guys, how's it going? I contribute for the Knicks and Yankees. And welcome to our first ever episode on the podcast.
Hopefully, when you're seeing this, we will have a Twitter account by then, so you guys will be able to follow us. It'll be at Outlet Pass Pod, and you can also follow both of us on Twitter. My Twitter name is at Nick Fox with 2 Ks and 2 Xs because the original one was taken.
And you can follow me at RealJZon. I mostly tweet about sports, so hopefully you guys enjoy that. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that. This is an NBA podcast, but we have a lot to talk about today. We got a lot of off-season stuff. We got winners and losers here. We got Woj dropping the NBA lottery reformation possibly coming up soon. And we also have our way too early predictions for standings and awards. Are you ready, Nick?
I think I'm just about ready right now. So let's dive into it. You want to start with the Wojnarowski story about the draft lottery?
Yes, so Woj dropped a tweet saying yesterday that the NBA was pursuing a reformation of the NBA draft lottery. As you guys know, the lottery is the 14 teams who don't make the playoffs are inserted into a lottery that is to get that number one pick, where the worst team in the NBA has a 25% chance odds at getting the pick, and it goes all the way down to the 14th team having a 0.1% chance. And what they're trying to do pursuing this is they're trying to get rid of tanking. They're trying to make it harder for teams to tank, and because they think it's bad for the NBA. And I actually wanted to bring this up first. My roommate and colleague here thinks that they brought up to me the other day that possibly introducing a lottery format like the NHL has, where when you're in the back of the lottery just missing the playoffs, you have a decent chance at getting that first pick. And I thought that was very interesting. I wanted to bring that up first. So Nick, would you like to add your argument on that?
Sure. So I guess the original idea was, if no matter where you stand outside of the playoffs, whether you're the 15th team or the 9th team in your respective conference, you would have the same odds of obtaining a number one overall pick, which seems a little bit drastic considering how we're so used to like the 15th team in each conference being in the running for that first overall pick, and never really seeing a team that just barely missed the playoffs having that high of a lotto pick. So I think it might be a little bit drastic to introduce something like that, but I definitely think something where you have equal chances. Let's say you're the 15th seed all the way up to the 12th seed will get all equal chances at getting a number one overall pick. It still will kind of reward tanking, because if you still have a bad record inside that 15 to 12 range, you'll still have a chance of getting that number one overall pick, but it at least eliminates the idea of teams trying to compete to be the worst overall team in the league, which is something that I don't think the league wants to see go on for much longer.
And I agree, tanking is pretty bad. We had owner Mark Cuban admit that they were tanking at the end of the season once they were eliminated from the playoffs, and it's kind of, I don't really know how we could actually stop tanking. It's very hard because we haven't even seen. Obviously, the 76ers, you got to trust the process. It looks like it's turning out, but you haven't seen. Obviously, Joel Embiid could be one of the best big men in the league in the upcoming years. And you got Ben Simmons, who's very exciting, Mark Fultz. But we haven't seen this team exactly gel yet. And it's not like tanking is really. Should teams be going towards tanking? That's the real question here. But that's something that the NBA wants to stop.
Yeah, and currently, the NBA, if you're projected to get the number one overall pick, you have the best odds of getting the number one overall pick. That pick can fall no lower than the 4th overall pick. But what the NBA is currently proposing is, if you're first overall, you have that 25% chance. You can now drop all the way to the 5th pick. Not a huge drop, but still pretty significant. And then that domino effect, where if you have the 2nd pick, you can drop all the way to 6, and so on. So I think that is definitely on the right track. I think, increasing the odds of you, spreading out over the draft, where if you have the best odds of getting number one overall pick, okay, you do have those best odds, but if that doesn't work out for you, you could drop as far as, 5, 6, even 7 or 8. I think that would be an incentive where teams wouldn't be so, I guess, up for tanking as they are right now, but I don't think, like you said, tanking will ever really be gone in this game. But to see it minimized as much as we can would definitely be a good thing.
Oh yeah, of course. And to put on before when we talking about comparing our draft, the NBA lottery draft to the NHL lottery draft, the teams that so this year I remember that no team outside the top 8 had a top 3 pick. It was like the number 10, like the number 13, and like the number 12 who were in the top 3. The team that had the first odds at the pick dropped the 4th. So it is similar in the fact that the first team can't drop to the 4 like the NBA lottery, but those back teams do have a chance to get in the top 3. But I don't know. I mean, as a Knicks fan, I don't want to see my team completely tank because that's not fun to watch. If you enjoy your team losing, like, I get it, you guys want to have a young team, but I can't watch my team tank. Like, I want them to be competitive. And as much as we do need a rebuild, I mean, I'm completely fine with trading Melo and forfeiting the season, but to watch them go through the whole season, it's miserable. I don't understand how Philadelphia fans have done it the past couple of years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and buying in on your whole franchise with 3 players who have played a total of 30 games, and only those 30 games have come from Joel Embiid. It's definitely bold, and I think the NBA has kind of shown that maybe you don't need a top 5 pick so much anymore. I mean, look at Giannis Antetokounmpo dropping. I think he was the 12th pick in that 2013 NBA draft.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas is a pretty well-known example, being that last pick in the draft.
Rudy Gobert wasn't drafted until the late first round.
Right. Draymond Green was a second-round pick. So I think you can still get talent very early on, and those talent could be game-changing.
You just need people who are good at scouting, like teams that are good at scouting. The Warriors, look at what they did. Their whole dynasty is going to be built up by drafting, and then they picked up Kevin Durant, making the whole thing, Yeah. But tanking, it's a weird thing. It's always up for discussion. There's really no solution if you don't want teams to tank. There's never going to be a complete solution. But let's see what the NBA does. You never know.
All right. And would you want to move on to the off season?
Yes, let's move on to the off season. We have our winners and losers. We have a lot to talk about with the off season. A lot of things happened this off season. It was so much fun to watch on my phone at my house as I ate and slept. Anyway, so Nick, let me hear your first winner of this NBA off season.
So it may sound like I'm being a little bit of a homer, but my first off season winner is actually the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the 2 biggest problems that the Thunder had last season was their abysmal 3-point shooting. They shot 32% from 3, good for dead last in the NBA, and that attributed to their lack of floor spacing. And then along with that was the fact that Russell Westbrook didn't really have a true number 2. You could say Victor Oladipo, he put up career stats in every category, I'm pretty sure, but he wasn't that number 2 option where teams actually had to worry about him. It was, Russell Westbrook came down the court and he drove into the lane, and instead of there just being his defender and maybe, Steven Adams' defender, everyone crashed on him. And now, he had to kick it out to people like Andre Roberson, who hit the side of the backboard on corner threes. So, but I think a lot of those problems got alleviated this year. I think the acquisition of Paul George really takes care of that number 2 option. Huge. And, the dumping off of Victor Oladipo's massive contract extension was, I thought, was even more important than obtaining Paul George, because of the Thunder wanted to go into a rebuild. Let's say Russell Westbrook leaves. They're not burdened with now 2 $20 million contracts. They still have Steven Adams, large extension on the books, but at least Oladipo's off. But Paul George is an exciting guy. He's a dynamic player. I think he can be a huge threat from behind the 3-point arc. He can take up the ball sometimes, relieve that pressure off Russ. And now Russ doesn't have to worry about getting double teamed as often, because you might be leaving a guy like Paul George open. Along with that, they acquired Patrick Patterson and Raymond Felton in free agency. I think Patrick Patterson could be an X factor for the Thunder here this year. He shot 37% from 3 with the Raptors and 36% from 3 on catch and shoot threes, which is the majority of the threes that I think he's going to be taking. With Russ or PG driving, kicking it out, Patrick Patterson in the corner for 3. Just another floor spacing option. Raymond Felton's going to do great, I believe, on that second unit. We had Samaje Christian in it at a backup point guard, and while he wasn't the worst, there were definitely some rookie jitters And I think having experienced veteran presence like Raymond on that second unit will be huge. And then Terrence Ferguson in the draft, another young, athletic wing. He's a good three-point shooter. I don't think he showed it as much when he was down in Australia with the Adelaide 76ers, I believe it was. But I think he has all the talent in the world. He's a very raw prospect, so it might take a couple years for him to fully come into his mold. But yeah, I'm just really excited for this season for the Thunder. I think they did a lot of things right, and I think they could do well this season.
Oh, well, you said you got a lot out there, and I actually did agree with you. I had the Thunder as a winner this all season, and for the most part, what you touched on was the Victor Oladipo contract. When they acquired him in that Serge Ibaka trade, they immediately signed him to an extension. And I thought that was the weirdest part because you didn't even get a chance to see whether him and Westbrook would mesh, and Westbrook needs a shooting guard that could hit the three ball on a consistent basis next to him. You know, Victor Oladipo and Westbrook were kind of similar players, very drive, athletic guards, and it just didn't make sense for the Thunder to sign them immediately. But they did good. They got Paul George out of him. I mean, I'd take Paul George any day over Victor Oladipo. So I thought that was a win. Patrick Patterson too, and they lost Sabonis. That's not a huge loss.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was excited to see what Sabonis could do. I think him starting at the beginning of the year was a little bit much, but you know, if we have to give up Sabonis to get Paul George, I'm willing to take that every day of the week.
Well, yeah, of course. So I'll go on to my second winner. Alrighty. Obviously, since I had the Thunder, I have a player with the winner in this all season. His name is Tim Hardaway Jr. Tim Hardaway. Got paid this all season, and it was ridiculous. The 4-year, $71 million extension. Obviously, the rumors were the Hawks were only going to extend him for a 4-year, $45 million extension. Obviously, the Knicks didn't want to take a chance on them, accepting that offer that the Knicks offered, so they overshot it a little bit. And as a Knicks fan, I do like the signing. I like Tim Hardaway back on the Knicks, and despite the ridiculous triangle formation of us trading Tim Hardaway for Jeremy Grant and using Jeremy Grant to get Derrick Rose, and using the money that we lost from the Derrick Rose signing to get Tim Hardaway back. As ridiculous as it sounds, Tim Hardaway has excelled as an NBA player ever since he left the Knicks, and I'm excited to see him back. He averaged 18 points per game after Kyle Korver left and he got the starting role. The 35 to 40 games he was gone, and I'm really excited. He could take the next step if Melo leaves. I don't know if we'll see the whole next step thing if Melo stays on the team, but it could be a really exciting season to see Tim Hardaway back in the New York Knicks uniform. But I have him a winner.
Our people who are listening to this podcast must think we're just a bunch of homers. I'm sitting here talking about the Thunder. You're sitting here talking about the Knicks.
You know, but I'm not even putting my team as a winner. I don't think the Knicks won this all season. They threw $17 million a year at this guy, and you know what, Tim Hardaway, you balled out. You hustled. You deserve a contract, and you got paid, and you're set for life after this contract.
So the real winner is Tim Hardaway Jr.'s bank account, I guess we could say.
You could say that. So, that being said, Nick, who was your second winner?
My second winner, it wasn't until very late in this offseason that I deemed them a winner, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, the blockbuster trade, sending Isaiah Thomas to the Celtics. Sending Kyrie Irving to the Celtics, I'm sorry. Isaiah Thomas leaves the Celtics, comes to the Cavs, along with Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and that Brooklyn 2018 first-round pick.
That's the huge part.
I think the hugest part for me was actually the addition of Jay Crowder in that trade. I think getting rid of Kyrie, who was unsettled, was a very great idea. You're getting an almost equal replacement. They're both, ball-dominant point guards, like to score a lot. Not exactly strong on the defensive end. Isaiah, obviously, with his size, and Kyrie, we would say he would go missing sometimes on defense.
It was he had some laziness to. I mean, people will roast me for saying this, but I've watched some games and I've seen him not hustle back on defense. It's all about, he's got the athleticism, he's got the speed to stay in front of people. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I think that move of adding Jay Crowder to the Cavs, I think that's what moves the needle for them and actually puts them in a really, really good position to go up against a team like the Warriors. If for the fourth time in a row we're going to see a Cavs-Warriors final. But I think, Jay Crowder is a very underrated player. I think his defensive ability is very, very good. I think his ability to shoot corner threes, I think it was 46% on corner threes
Wow.
last year.
That's
So
high.
with LeBron James driving and dishing out to Jay Crowder on the corner, it's definitely going to be nice. So, and then that Brooklyn pick, I mean, that's a fail-safe for them if this timeline of LeBron getting older and Kevin Love getting older and Isaiah Thomas getting older doesn't exactly work out. You know, you have a backup plan and getting young, and that Brooklyn pick will be the start of it.
Or you could use that to even get more talent on the team for this playoff run, which it may look like they do. As we know, there was rumors of them fielding that pick. No real rumors came out. There was the false DeMarcus Cousins rumor.
Right.
No way that really happens. I can't see it. But we'll see what happens with that pick. Anything else you'd like to add about Cleveland?
No, that's it. I think Cleveland is going to be still be the dominant force in the East.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Before that Kyrie Irving trade, I thought I would have put the Cavs as a loser this all season because of their lack of signings for defense. I mean, I obviously there's no person you could bring into this team other than like a Kawhi Leonard or a Draymond Green that could stop the. Well, Draymond Green's on the Warriors, so you can't use him to stop the Warriors. So, but there's no real Warriors stopper because you got so many threats on that team. But you still have to at least put some defense on the court. Cleveland was one of the worst defensive teams in the playoffs last year. It blew my mind that they didn't, and then they finally got Jay Crowder, which is I'm not gonna say Jay Crowder is gonna stop Kevin Durant. There's no way he's gonna stop Kevin Durant. But at least you're actually putting some balls into the defense and. Jose Calderon and Derrick Rose. I mean, Derrick Rose is going to be a nice guy off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can win Sixth Man of the Year this year. But I thought signing him and Jose Calderon, it was just I just didn't get it. But they made that trade, and it was a really good trade. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily put him as a total winner for me before. But no, yeah, they're a winner.
All right, and now you want to move on to the losers. Would you like to go first on your off-season
yes.
losers?
I would love to go into the losers of the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks possibly have the worst roster in the NBA right now. It's hilarious. They lost Paul Millsap in free agency, which, I mean, they're going to rebuild mode now. It's, quite frankly, they've been a middle team in the Eastern Conference every year except for that one year where they won 60 wins and got beat up by the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't even know. They traded Dwight Howard away for nothing. That was a failed experiment. And now their team's left in the hands of Dennis Schroeder. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. They got Dennis Schroeder starting at point guard. They got Kent Bazemore coming off a really, really bad season. And he's getting paid. And they didn't do anything about that. They let Tim Hardaway go too. But obviously you can't have two shooting guards getting paid over $15 million per year. And I don't see a set plan. I just don't. And they didn't really do anything to holster those positions. They look like they're going into a full rebuild mode. Like, if that's the plan, that's the plan. But to me, they're a loser.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The one thing I could say to counter that would be in my opinion, would be a very good draft that they had. They got DeAndre Bembry and John Collins. John Collins in the summer league, I believe, lit it up and looked extremely good.
He did look good.
So if they are going into that rebuild mode, having guys like Bembry and Collins, to spearhead that, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. But I do agree with you that
They lost a lot.
Hawks look very worse for wear this year.
You could say the Hawks fans were even bigger losers. Now they have to watch this team on the floor. Maybe Kent Bazemore or Dennis Schroeder is going to be your top scorer, and I don't think any team in the NBA wants that.
No, certainly not.
So, Nick, your losers?
My first loser is a team similar to the Atlanta Hawks. It's the Indiana Pacers. The Paul George trade looked great for the Thunder. It doesn't look so good on the Pacers end. Not a whole lot of value.
Not exactly.
Not a whole lot of value coming back. Victor Oladipo. I'm not sure what they're trying to do. I guess they're trying to go into rebuild mode, but with guys like Al Jefferson and Thad Young still on the team, it looks a little weird.
And they did get rid of Monte Ellis.
They did get rid of Monte Ellis, which is huge. But they did add guys like Corey Joseph, Bojan Bogdanovic, so that kind of signals to me like playoff experience guys. Like maybe they do want to still be a contending team.
Can they though?
I don't think they can. I think Miles Turner is going to be, their star player. I think it's very easy to see that.
Give him the keys.
He's got the keys to the entire state of Indiana right now.
Oh my God.
But I think his supporting cast is going to be the main problem. Guys like Victor Oladipo, Corey Joseph. They got T.J. Leaf and Ike Agnanabu. I don't know how to say that guy's name. But they got 2 rookies. But again, it doesn't look like a team that can really contend for anything much more than a lottery pick at this point.
And one thing you forgot to mention, also the loss of Jeff Teague to that team could be a little significant. He's an average point guard in the NBA, but point guard position is probably the most important position other than what I think is the small forward, as we have probably.
He certainly gave them some guidance last year. Now losing that is going to be rough for them.
It's going to be a rough season to be an Indiana Pacer fan, to say the least.
Who do you have as your second loser?
I have the Jazz. I went back and forth with this, but when you lose the player like Gordon Hayward, who's given so much to your NBA franchise, it's a huge blow. They traded away a first round pick, which will most likely be a late first round pick this year, but they traded it away to the Timberwolves for Ricky Rubio to try to get Gordon to stay, and that didn't work out. They signed Jumpin' Joe Ingles to an extension, and I don't think they really went to go get a guy. Like Boston went to go do a sign and trade with them to see if they can relieve some cap space for the team by signing Hayward. They offered them Jay Crowder, and they denied it, which I thought was really silly. They went after Avery Bradley, which I don't know. I feel like in that situation, the Celtics are kind of like they're like, here, we'll help you out. Here, take Jay Crowder's contract, help us out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, we want Avery Bradley. And then, I don't know, I thought that was silly, and then they went their other way. They still ended up trading Avery Bradley, but they got something out of him.
Yeah.
But
a little bit stubborn on the Jazz part. The Jazz roster isn't too bad looking at it. You still have guys like Rodney Hood. You still have Rudy Gobert. You still have Derek Favors.
They're still going to be a top defensive team in the NBA.
Right. It's just that offensive output now is a little bit more questionable.
And you lose George Hill in free agency to
Sacramento. You do add Donovan Mitchell, though, and he was very, very exciting.
He looked good.
You want to know who else looked good? Dante Exum. Him and Dante Exum in the Summer League were actually a very, very nice duo. And hopefully Dante Exum can do something now with Gordon Hayward gone. Mm-hmm. Maybe get a little bit more touches. Maybe kind of, become the player that so many people hoped he would have become when he was drafted how many years ago.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because we're also relying on Joe Johnson possibly to pick up the pace on points. He's not getting any younger, and we also got Rodney Hood, who could step up. You could ask for more from him on offense, but there's no way he could match the Gordon Hayward offense to put out. Obviously, you got to put your money in on Donovan Mitchell. He's looked fantastic. I actually was rooting for the Knicks to actually pick him up, possibly, or get another first-round pick to sign him, but it didn't work out, and now I'm watching him ball out in Utah, so there you go.
All right. And then for my second loser, I actually have a team that I don't know if a lot of people thought they were losers, and that's the Toronto Raptors. Now, at first thought, you'd think the Raptors weren't exactly a loser. They were able to keep Kyle Lowry, signed him to a massive extension. Mm-hmm. They did lose Patrick Patterson, obviously, to the Thunder, but they were able to, I think, adequately replace his offensive output with a guy like C.J. Miles, who's, just another catch-and-shoot, corner three type of guy. But I think the biggest thing for me is their loss of defensive presence. They lost, obviously they lost Patrick Patterson, they lost Amari Carroll, they lost P.J. Tucker. A lot of that really strong front court defense that they had.
Got those gritty guys.
Right. That was the big thing last year, was signing guys like P.J. Tucker in hopes that, you could just switch a plethora of defenders onto LeBron James, keep those guys fresh, and try and wear down LeBron as much as possible. But now without those guys, it doesn't look too strong for them as far as defense goes. And then I just think the idea of buying in on the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry saga, this era of Toronto Raptors basketball, I don't think it's going to get them to where they want to be, and that's contending for an NBA championship. I think that their style of play, that pick and roll kind of ISO to DeMar, pick and roll ISO for Kyle Lowry, it stagnates them. And with the way the NBA is moving towards, floor spacing and catch and shoot threes and, whipping the ball around, Toronto's kind of getting left in the dust. And I don't know if they're going to be the team that they want to be.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. The Raptors didn't really. I don't look at the Raptors and say that they get. I don't think they're scarier now this offseason. That's what they really needed to do because you got teams. Cleveland are ramping up. Boston ramped up. Boston only had 4 returning players. That was ridiculous to me just to mention that. I know we're talking about the Raptors right now, but they didn't get better to me. They lost. They re-signed Serge Ibaka. They got him long term now, and it's just like maybe if you put those 3 together for a full season, they could get something clicked. But I don't know. I don't see them. I don't see them competing with the Clevelands, the Bostons, even the Washingtons. And then you got teams like Milwaukee, who Giannis is only getting better. They don't have a guy who could stop Giannis. They don't have a guy who could stop LeBron.
It should definitely be tough for them. And actually, I want to add one more loser, and it's a team / player, more focused on the player, and that is Zach Randolph of the Sacramento Kings. I really thought the Kings did well this offseason. I thought the acquisitions of George Hill, Vince Carter, Zach Randolph, getting De'Aaron in the draft, I believe they got Harry Giles in that draft as well.
They did.
They look really, really good as far as where they want to go, and that's rebuilding and getting younger and bringing in veterans to kind of mentor those young guys. But Zach Randolph in particular, I remember him being talked about as like that glue guy in that Memphis locker room. And he can't exactly be a glue guy now because he's facing a felony marijuana charge with intent to sell. So he is not looking at too good of a situation right now. And he hasn't been charged. Well, he has been charged, but he hasn't been sentenced or anything like that. I think that's coming up. But if he does get sentenced or he pleads guilty and gets his sentence dropped down to a misdemeanor, he still has to worry about the NBA coming down on him. And I think Adam Silver, with the way he's run as a commissioner, I think he's going to want to try and stomp this out and make sure that guys know that in the future, if you do something stupid like this, you're not going to get off easy. You're going to be punished pretty severely.
Yeah, good point there. God love Zebo when he was in Memphis. He was a really grinded out player, post player. Never worked out for the Knicks. That would always make me sad. But I loved watching Zebo play. He's a really great player, and hopefully they get past this. I don't know. I mean, Zebo was always a plug. We saw him with the drug dealer flip phone. We know Zach Randolph doesn't need a flip phone. That man has enough money for.
He also doesn't need to sell drugs. How much money has he made from the NBA? Why are you selling drugs?
Yeah, it's a little sketchy situation to me. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard much about it since it happened. So.
Right. Do you know how much marijuana he was found with?
No,
he was found with 2 pounds of marijuana in his backpack. In a backpack that belonged to him.
Oh my god.
Either he likes smoking a lot or he's actually selling. Either way, it's not the best.
But we have heard from NBA players that they think smoking marijuana has made them better at basketball. But that's another discussion for another day. I won't get into that now.
I'm just going to add J.R. Smith right now.
Oh, I love you, J.R. I'll let you come back to New York.
Alrighty. You wanna hop over to standings?
Well, let's do it. Our 2 early predictions.
These predictions are way too early right now.
They're way too early. I have no idea how this NBA season is going to go. A lot of excitement.
Yep.
And so this is how we're going to start. Me and Nick are going to go back and forth. We're going to start off with the teams that we think are going to come in 15th through 12th in the Eastern Conference. I'll start off. In last place in the Eastern Conference, I think, are going to be the Bulls. In 14th, I have the Hawks. In 13th, the surging Brooklyn Nets. And in 12th place, I have the Indiana Pacers. Nick,
okay.
Yours?
15th place, I have the Orlando Magic. 14th, the Atlanta Hawks. 13th, Chicago Bulls. And 12th, just like you, the Pacers of Indiana.
So that was interesting. The one team that you had that I didn't in that section was the Orlando Magic. You had them in dead last. Can you explain why?
I just don't see a whole lot coming from them. They have stars or players that should develop into stars. And Aaron Gordon, they had high hopes on Mario Hezonja, high hopes on Elfrid Payton, and none of that has really worked out. They don't have any sort of floor spacing. Their best 3-point shooter is Evan Fournier, and then you have Terrence Ross. I just look at that roster and don't see as much talent as I do on a team like the Hawks, where at least they have guys like DeAndre Bembry, John Collins can hopefully be good for them. They have Dennis Schroeder, they have Kent Bazemore with a little bit more experience, and they've actually shown that they can win. The Magic, to me, have not shown that they can win. They got rid of their best player in Serge Ibaka. It's just I don't see a bright future for them, at least right now.
Yeah, they're definitely obviously I don't have Orlando that much higher, but they're an interesting team. They're not really run correctly in my opinion. They pushed Aaron Gordon to the small forward position. They tried putting in Serge Ibaka as like a team leader. Hopefully they took the next push, and then that didn't work out, and they gave up Serge Ibaka for practically nothing. They're a funny organization, but I think the move of Jonathan Isaac is a huge move for them. I think he's going to be a special player in this league, and he's got the talent, he's got the length, and hopefully he excels. Hopefully for the Magic. Oh, goddamn. But any other teams that you want to talk about in that section?
I guess the Bulls. You had the Bulls in dead last place, and I had them in 13th. Why do you have them so low?
Well, with the Dwayne Wade is expected to be bought out by the Bulls any time now. You have your best point guard being in the guy from the Timberwolves. Can't think of his name right now. The guy that they just drafted last year.
Chris Dunn?
Chris Dunn.
Yeah.
That's your starting point guard with Cameron Payne and Jaren Grant. You got that's probably like the worst point guard depth in the NBA right now. You got Zach LaVine's probably your best player, and Lauri Markkanen got hurt during the
Eurobasket.
Yeah, I saw him went him down. That's like,
how long is he out?
I haven't heard much about that.
Let's see.
If you could,
I have a laptop right next to me, so we'll look this up.
So we could look that up, but I don't see anything coming from the Bulls this season. It's just that their roster, it's definitely one of the lower tier teams in the NBA.
Oh, undisclosed injury doesn't seem to be serious. This was back on September 2nd. They expected him to play on a Eurobasket game that was coming up. So.
That's huge.
I guess we don't need to be as worried about him as you were.
But and then again, though, you're putting all your marbles into this team on Lauri Markkanen and then Zach LaVine, Denzel Valentine. Like, I don't know. Yeah. This team they don't have like the roster to compete to me this year. So that's why I had them in 15th.
And who'd you have in 14th again?
I had the Hawks.
Okay, we agree on the Hawks then.
We agreed on the Hawks and the Pacers.
Yep. And then we swapped the Bulls and the Magic. So we have it's a consensus that these are the bottom four teams.
Well, I had the Nets 13th.
Oh, you did have the Nets 13th.
Yes.
You don't believe that they're going to take any more steps forward?
I mean, I like the moves they made, but D'Angelo Russell, Alan Crabb. I mean, I like Karis LeVert.
Isaiah Whitehead, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Yeah, but you also lost Brook Lopez in that whole scenario, and that being one of the favorite players in that franchise's history. It's just, I don't know. I think D'Lo could be an all-star this season, which it wouldn't surprise me if he was.
Hot take.
That's a hot take right there. But you never know with this team. I mean, I don't think they're going to make that much of a push. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but I don't think they're going to really come up anymore.
I understand that. All right, so let's move on to, 11 through 8 you want to do?
11 through 9.
11 through 9. Okay, so in 11th place, I have the Brooklyn Nets. 10th place, I have the New York Knicks. And 9th place, I have the Philadelphia 76ers.
Interesting, Nick Fox. Interesting. Very interesting. And 11th, I have the Orlando Magic. 10th, I did agree with you. I have my New York Knicks.
Knickerbockers.
The Knickerbockers in 10th. And in 9th, I have the Miami Heat.
Ooh, you have the Heat so low.
Yes, indeed I do. So let's talk about that 76ers in the 9th spot.
You want to talk about it?
Let's indulge in that because our Trust the Process people out here are going to want to listen to this.
This is very funny because anytime you talk to me, I talk about how people should not be buying in so early on the Sixers, and I point to the Timberwolves last year where people were so high on them, and then they end up coming in 12th. It's not so much that I think the Sixers are going to be so much better. It's just I think the bottom of the Eastern Conference is going to be really, really bad. So almost by default, they can get above everything else. I mean, Embiid showed flashes of being an all-star. It was 30 games, so I think he really needs to show more. Ben Simmons in Summer League looked dope. So did Markelle Fultz. I just,
They look dope, guys.
I don't know why I used that word there. It's not. I don't think it's so much that I think the Sixers will be so good. I just think the rest of the Eastern Conference is going to be really, really struggling, and they'll just by process of elimination be able to get all the way up where they are at 9.
Yeah, and to a sense, I do agree with you that you can't really put all your marbles in this bag for the 76ers. They've only had Joel Embiid play 30 games. You haven't seen Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz play in real NBA action yet. And well, they got JJ Redick, like that's great and all, but we don't know. We don't. This team's a huge question mark still, like they have been for the past couple. Well, you knew they were going to be bad the past couple of years, but let's see if they could take the jump this year. I hope they do. But let's talk about. We both agreed on the Knicks. Let's talk about my Knickerbockers.
Yep.
They got the Tim Hardaway Jr. signing. We expected them to trade Melo. I at least did, and he's still here. That could be a problem. We're not exactly sure yet. So, I guess we both see them. Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess we both see them as a team that's too good to be too bad in this conference.
Exactly. They still have an all-star in Carmelo Anthony. The cloud of Phil Jackson is gone. The cloud of Derrick Rose missing games and not telling
Bless
anybody
the Lord,
is
they're
gone. I want them to be good. I really do. I like Kristaps Porzingis a lot. I like Frank Ntilikina a lot. I think Melo should just play this season and just go, I'm just gonna ball out. Like there's nothing else
Hoodie
he really
Melo,
can
baby.
do. Yeah. Hopefully Hoodie Melo shows up.
But just to divulge into this team, just real quick, I won't spend too much time on this because this is a 10th place team, as we both have. Kristaps, Willie Hernangomez, this is your core young players. You got Frank in there. I love Frank. I'm not expecting too much from him this season, which is why I only have him in 10th place. And Melo and Tim Hardaway, like, let's see what they can do. Courtney Lee. It should be an interesting season because I don't know how this team's going to play, especially if Melo's still there. If they get rid of Melo, I can automatically bump them down to probably like 12th or 13th easily.
Probably.
But let's see if Kristaps takes the next step forward. Let's see what Willie does. He impressed me a lot this offseason, and he's impressing me in Euro basketball right now. He was balling out for Spain off with Pau and his brothers. So let's see what happens.
Can I ask why you have the Heat so low as well?
The Heat, well, obviously we all know the Heat went 30-11 after struggling early in the season, and everyone, Dion Waiters, I love Dion Waiters. He's amazing. Him with his mean mugging after game-winning shots, and that team really picked it up, and it was really on a lot of hands of him and Whiteside, but they didn't do anything. I mean, Kelly Olynyk, come on. If they got Gordon Hayward, oh my God, this team would be something to talk about, but they didn't get Gordon Hayward. Pat Riley's huge splash was on Kelly Olynyk, so that's all I really have to say about that. Like, they didn't do much to improve, and I don't think the culture is what's going to bring you into the playoffs again. Like, you're going to have to improve a little bit more than that. I saw teams that either improved or will get younger and improved to be better. So
I can definitely see that. So should we move on to our bottom of the playoffs then?
Yep, I got 8 through 5. In the 8th seed, I have the Detroit Pistons. 7th, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. 6th, I have the Hornets. And 5th, I have the Toronto Raptors.
Okay. Well, in 8th, I agree with you. I have the Detroit Pistons. 7th, I have the Charlotte Hornets. 6th, I'm sorry. I actually have the Miami Heat. And then in 5th, I agree with you as well. I have the Toronto Raptors. So what do you want to dive into first then?
All right. So first, before I get killed on choosing the Pistons over the Heat, I'm gonna back that up. I know you had the Pistons there too, but you didn't have the Heat below. I don't even know where to begin with the Pistons Heat. I think those are two teams that are going to be going back and forth between in and out of the playoffs all season. But I just think that what was it, like 41 games when they went 30-11? I don't know. I think that's just, I don't know if that's a good team. Like, I don't know if the Miami Heat are a good team or not. And I don't know if the Pistons are either. The question is with Andre Drummond. They lost KCP, but they got Avery Bradley, which I think is going to be huge for them.
Addition of Luke Kennard, adding some more shooting. I think they're 28th in shooting.
Yeah, they're right with shooting. They're right with your Thunder boys. Yep. So I think they improved this offseason. And not as, obviously, they didn't improve mightily, where I think they could be a contender. Obviously, I have them 8th, but I think they will be a little bit better than the Heat. I think they could scrape out that 8th seed with Avery Bradley.
I think just looking at the bottom of this Eastern Conference, looking at the Pistons, looking at the Hornets, looking at the Heat, they're all yo-yo teams. They can either shoot up and get hot and become a 6th seed, or they can drop and become like a 12th seed. It's just, there's so many question marks looking at this Eastern Conference with the the leavings of Jimmy Butler and Paul George. It leaves the door wide open, but a lot of these clubs haven't shown you that they're willing to, step up and become the new teams of the East.
Yeah, the middle of the East is going to be a crapshoot this season. So
You have the Sixers 7th.
I do have.
You're trusting the process then? Is that what you're telling me?
I guess that is what I'm telling you, but I don't know. I just think those talents, if Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz can stay marginally healthy, like I think that could be a great team. Dario, you got JJ Redick, but
TJ McConnell.
gotta love TJ McConnell, man. I don't know how you can't root for that guy.
Okay, and you have the Raptors 5th as well. We both kind of agree that they haven't made enough additions to where they can stay in that top 4 spot.
Yeah, I think they'll be right there behind that 4th spot, but when all is said and done, they're not that team. I don't know. And the Hornets we have.
I have them 7th.
You have them 7th. I have them 6th. You got Kemba Walker, who I mean, he's a really talented NBA player and gets left off all those elite point guard lists, but he's right there. You give him the credit. The team had a bad offseason. They just added, I mean, not a bad offseason. They had a bad season last season. They added Dwight Howard this offseason.
Michael Carter-Williams as well. They added Malik Monk in the draft.
Malik Monk was a steal in the NBA draft. Let me tell you, they committed robbery with that, but let's see how they do. It should be an interesting season for them, but I don't see them really tearing off far from teams like the Sixers, Heat, and Pistons. I think they'll be right there with them, but I see them marginally better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One thing I would want to look for with the Hornets is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. I heard he worked a lot during this offseason. I remember seeing articles that he worked with a renowned NBA shooting coach to fix his shot. Obviously, hopefully everyone has seen the pictures of him when he used to have his 3-point shot.
That was one of the best memes on Twitter. His shot. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's like Lonzo Ball if Lonzo Ball was a worse 3-point shooter, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it, but he's been in the league now since the 2012 NBA draft, so coming up on his 5th season. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But I feel like he still has talent to become not a superstar on that team, but enough of a threat where teams won't have to, won't just worry about Kemba, won't just worry about Malik. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, there should be an interesting team to watch this season. Anyway, but
top 4.
Let's talk about the top 4, the teams that we actually care about in the Eastern Conference. So 4th, I have the Bucks.
Okay.
And 3rd, I have the Washington Wizards.
Okay.
2, I have the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And 1, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Nick, yours?
You must have been reading off my list because I have the exact same top 4.
Top 4.
Yep.
All right.
So we both are high on the Bucks. We're both high on Giannis coming out last year. We're both high on him bouncing out this year even more.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for him to play with a healthy Chris Middleton this season.
He's not with a healthy Jabari, though.
He's not with a healthy Jabari, but I heard a lot of people... Now, I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of Bucks games last season, but I heard a lot of people say that Giannis and Jabari didn't really play that well together. Jabari was playing well at one point.
20 points a game, I think.
I thought he could be a most improved player last season at one point, or I wrote an article way back when, not for Roto then, about how he was an honorable mention for most improved player mid-season, but he got hurt again.
Yeah, he tore his ACL in February. He's 12 months out. I think they said in July that his progress is good, but it's not, I don't expect him to come back in 9 months or something like that.
And it's interesting to just put in just real quick about the really quiet rumor of how he was added into those mellow discussions between the Knicks and the Rockets just as like a 3-team trade. The Knicks, I don't know why that would happen. But it should be... Let's see if he stays with the team. I don't know. This is his contract year, I believe.
I believe it is his contract year, and he won't even get to play an entire year for his contract.
Yeah. Should be very interesting, folks, what happens to Jabari Parker.
Then at 3rd, we both have the Wizards. I thought just as much as it was a coming out party last season for Giannis, I thought it was a coming out party for John Wall as a top 5 point guard in this league.
Yeah, a lot of people are now high on John Wall.
Yeah.
There's no
myself
surprise.
included.
Yeah.
I think him and Bradley Beal are a very dynamic backcourt. A lot of the problems they had last year was off the bench, actually. And they added some bench depth. They got, Jody Meeks? And they got Tim Frazier as well. They lost Bojan Bogdanovic. But I don't know. I'm excited about this team. I think they're going to do big things.
And with this team, why I put them 3rd, I didn't think they really improved as much as I would like them to. But I think with the East really falling apart as it is, like the Raptors falling off, You could even be. I wouldn't even be surprised if Milwaukee did pass them for the third seed. I don't know. The Wizards have been putting out the same roster for how many years now, and it's just like we just keep expecting them to get better. But
well, John Wall has gotten better, so it's
John Wall has gotten better.
Like looking at them compared to the Raptors, right? They both have similar rosters to what they had last year. It's just the Raptors have an aging Kyle Lowry and a DeMar DeRozan who's still in his prime,
and an aging Serge Ibaka,
right? Compared to a almost in prime John Wall, a very young Bradley Beal, a very young Otto Porter, who they re-signed to a massive extension. So
damn. That was another winner this offseason. I forgot to put that.
Otto Porter's bank account? Yeah,
Otto Porter's bank
definitely
account.
Something. And then second, we have the Celtics. We both agree the Celtics are going to be there. I'm excited to see how Hayward and Kyrie Irving work on the court together.
That should be very interesting. I don't know how they will. I think the Boston Celtics are going to start off a little rough this season because you got a really new team. The Boston's. I've never seen this from a first-seeded team in any conference, in any sport, that re-ramped their roster that much. They only have 4 returning players.
Yeah. That's
crazy to me. But it's going to take some time to adjust. They saw a lot of new players. Most of the players, only Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and
Terry Rozier, I believe it is.
Oh, Terry Rozier. The key to that team. Anyway, but yeah, that's the only 4 players you got returning, so it should be interesting how they gel.
I think Marcus Morris actually might be an X-Factor type player for them.
That's true.
Because the biggest thing they had problems with was rebounding last year. And obviously still having Al Horford at the center spot, you're not going to win a lot of rebounding battles every night. But I think, Marcus Morris is a little bit more of a, tenacious guy.
Yeah.
I think hopefully he can try and pick up some of that rebounding slack.
I think the only way the Celtics can match with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the regular season standings is if they do go out and get a bigger man who could defend the rim more and also rebound more. But let's move on to the Cavs. Obviously, the consensus with us, Cleveland, Isaiah Thomas, Derrick Rose, JR, Jay Crowder, LeBron, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson. The Brooklyn pick, which they have to their disposal, they could even get better as the season goes on.
Yeah,
that's the consensus with us, and not really surprised about that. Yeah. So
hopefully Jay Crowder can alleviate some of those minutes for LeBron James, because I remember a big thing last year was LeBron and him playing way too many minutes a game, and whether or not it affected him during the playoffs. But now having another big guy at the small forward position, you can let LeBron off some nights. Yeah. And hopefully Jay Crowder will pick up not all of the slack, but a decent portion of it.
And that's also going to be another interesting thing to watch him, LeBron and Isaiah Thomas gel. Isaiah Thomas fits the Kyrie role where he's more looked upon to score, but also relieve some of the passing away from LeBron, which is must needed, as we know. Yeah. LeBron needs another point guard. But let's see how that one team goes. We have the same top 4. I think it'll probably go that way. I can't see any other team notching the top 4, but let's see how it goes.
So I think outside of maybe the top 4 teams in the East, everything else is just a gigantic question mark.
Anything can happen.
Right? Anything. We could have the Magic at the 8th seed. Like I have no idea what's going to happen this year.
And so let's move on to the Western Conference. A little bit more interesting competition, other than the unsaid team that you'll guys hear later. So we'll start from the
bottom.
The bottom. Nick, give me your bottom 4.
15, I have the Kings. 14, I have the Suns. 13, I have the Mavericks. And 12, I have the Los Angeles Lakers.
Interesting. We got the same 4 teams in our bottom 4. I had the Mavericks 15th, the Suns 14th, the Kings 13th, and the Lakers 12th. So the only thing that was different was that we switched the Kings with the Mavericks. And so you want to explain to me why you think the Kings are going to be last?
I think that while their organization is trying to take steps away from that whole DeMarcus Cousins saga, where they were seen as kind of, basketball hell, as Rudy Gay liked to say that one time, I think they're still going to struggle. I think they have a lot of young talent and a lot of experienced veterans.
You got Buddy.
But I don't think that'll gel as fast. Like, looking at them last year, they had 31 wins, I think it was. How many of those wins came when DeMarcus Cousins was on the team? I mean, you had a superstar, you had an all-star on your team, and you were only able to, get 31 wins. Obviously, you traded him after the all-star break. But now, lacking that player, I don't see them really getting even close to that amount of wins.
Yeah, I did like what they did a lot with this offseason, as we were saying before with George Hill. They drafted De'Aaron Fox. You got Buddy Hield, and you also have Zebo, Vince Carter. They're a very interesting team this season. I kind of like them. They're gonna probably stun some teams every once in a while. It's gonna be. I think they're gonna be a fun team to watch this season. But we'll see. Obviously, you're not as high on them as I am. I have them all the way up to 13th, guys.
And now, why do you have the Mavericks so low?
Aging roster. That they got the whole. Let's see how Nerlens does. Nerlens could be good for them. You know, I'm not expecting too much from him. I'm not as high as him as I once was. Dirk's getting older. He's still your top-notch scorer. And DSJ, let's see what he can do this season.
He's a very exciting player.
It's very interesting how he felt in the Mavericks at the 9th.
The one thing I will say is that I'm not ready to count out Rick Carlisle's coaching.
That's
I'm
true.
not ready to, because his roster last year was not as strong.
And he still made that team into a
possible playoff contender. I mean, they ended up missing the playoffs, but not by a whole lot.
Yeah, not by a whole lot. They were down there until like the very final stretch. I do remember.
And we saw how well Yogi Ferrell was able to come in and play on that team.
That's true.
And that kind of gives me belief that Dennis Smith Jr. will hopefully break out in that same way, if not even better. I mean, he is an insane athletic talent.
Yeah. Sorry, Rick Carlisle. I kind of doubt you right now. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in this roster.
And we both have the Lakers 12.
Lakers, yes. Gotta love the Lakers. Gotta love big ballers only, man.
I think they're going to be one of the most fun teams to watch this year.
And they're still in primetime almost more than any other team.
Well, you can thank Lonzo Ball for that.
Oh, thank you, Lonzo.
But I do think this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think watching Lonzo Ball throw outlet passes to Brandon Ingram all the way down the court.
Way to throw in the name mid-podcast.
Yeah, sorry, I had to. But Lonzo Ball lit up the Summer League. He was a Summer League MVP, and I know it's just the Summer League, but, his passing ability.
He's going to be very fun to watch this season. And you got KCP. You got
Kyle Kuzma, that other young Laker rookie who impressed a lot at Summer League.
Hopefully Brandon Ingram improves this season. Yeah. We're looking at him. Magic Johnson definitely believes in him. He's made it known he's made him unavailable in any trades, which was very interesting to me. And the
Lakers are going to be young.
And you got Brook Lopez. We forgot about Brook Lopez.
They got rid of Timothy Mozgov and his albatross of a contract.
And D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, I like D'Angelo Russell.
Gotta get rid of the snitch, man. No snitches on this team.
I think the Lakers are going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think they're going to be a young team that is going to stun some teams as well. But I don't think they're going to win that much. I think they're going to be exciting to watch, and they might have close games. But at the end of the day, experience is really needed in this league, and they don't have enough of it.
There you go. Well, let's move on to the 11th through 9th spot. I have the Grizzlies in 11th, the Nuggets in 10th, and the Jazz in 9th.
Wow.
Let me hear what you have to say first, and then I'll go back to what I have to say.
I have the Pelicans in 11th. I have the Grizzlies in 10th, and I have the Timberwolves in 9th.
I had
the Trailblazers.
You have the Trailblazers.
I read the wrong one.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11th is Pelicans, 10th is Grizzlies, 9th is Trailblazers.
Now this part of the Western Conference, I think, is going to be really exciting. I think it's going to come down to like the last game, like it did this year when the Nuggets and the Trailblazers were trying to get that 8th spot. Yeah. I think this is a very fun conference to watch, and you have the Jazz who lost Gordon Hayward. They're still going to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. I have them 9th, and I have the Nuggets still sitting outside the playoffs. The addition of Paul Millsap, I don't know if that's what I want.
I think he provides valuable playoff experience.
He does,
to a team that's very young and is has a bunch of budding stars and Gary Harris and Nikola Jokic. I think he'll. Maybe, I don't want to say he'll steady the ship, but he'll definitely give some guidance to those guys.
That's true. And you're looking for Moody to get better.
Hopefully. Yeah, he has not progressed the way the Nuggets have wanted him to. We both have the Grizzlies very low. We have them out of the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. The team's getting older. Mike Conley looked good last season.
He did look good.
And we had Marc Gasol look good last season. I don't know. I think it looked like the middle of the Western Conference, other than the Jazz, got better, and it's just, I didn't see the Grizzlies really do anything other than losing Def and Vince Carter and Zebo.
They did add Ben McLemore, I believe.
Oh, wow.
That was one addition. I remember they added someone else. I'm not quite sure who that
The
was.
Grizzlies are going thrift shopping. But I don't know. That's a team that you always question. Like they're a well-run organization. They're always right there in the playoffs, but maybe this is the year that they're not.
Should we move on to 8 through 5?
Yeah, let's do it.
So in 8th place, I have the Utah Jazz. 7th, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. 6th, I have the Denver Nuggets. 5th, I have the Los Angeles Clippers.
Very interesting stuff you got there, Nick. I had in 8th, I have the Clippers. In 7th, I have the Pelicans. 6th, I have the Trailblazers, and 5th, I have the Timberwolves.
So let's establish the biggest difference, and that's the Pelicans. You have them all the way up in the playoff spot, and I have them down in 11th.
Yes, and I think that's very interesting that you left them out, considering that they have probably the 2 best big men combination I've ever seen in my lifetime with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. They're gonna be a deep, fun team to watch. They got Rajon Rondo, which is I know a lot of people don't like Rajon Rondo because he doesn't shoot and he's kind of a nutcase, but he's back with DeMarcus Cousins, and they got Drew Holiday on them back on the max. They're probably going to put Rondo at point guard, Drew at shooting guard. So it should be. I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch, and I do think they might make a move mid-season to really bolster them.
My thing is, with the way the league is shifting now to floor spacing and 3-point shooting, they're trying the other way, and they're just going to stick 2 huge centers that can shoot. And then they're going to try and beat you with that. And I think they could give maybe a team like the Warriors some problems, but with really no one surrounding them, your best player outside of them being Drew Holiday, who is certainly not a terrible player, but I don't think they add enough on the backcourt, where backcourt is so heavily needed nowadays in the NBA.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And you don't really have a guy who could really fit there at that 3 spot other than Solomon Hill. They got a very interesting roster. I think they need to make a move very quickly to really make a move into the playoffs. But I do think Cousins, they played very well together last year towards the end of the season. Obviously, a team like that you usually expect to tank towards the end of the season, but they were playing very well. So I think that's why I have them 7th, because I saw them playing very well towards the stretch. And another team you had the Clippers all the way up to the 5th spot.
Right, and I had the Nuggets in the 6th spot.
And I had the Clippers at the 8th spot. We touched on the Nuggets a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's talk about the Clippers. And obviously they lost Chris Paul, which is huge. And you always think a team like that, once you lose a player like that, they're going to fall off. But we don't think so. So, I mean, you think even less. You think that they're going to stay.
I think they're going to stay where they are. I think they still have Blake Griffin. They still have DeAndre Jordan. And they added a ton of bench depth with that Chris Paul trade. And that was one of their biggest problems last year.
I love Pat Beverly. Like, that's a huge part of that deal.
Right.
He played really well with
He
Harden
adds that defensive presence that Chris Paul did have. Obviously, the offensive output is not there. They added Milos Teodosic, that guy from the EuroLeague, who just is the flashiest passer in the world, but just plays zero defense. They added Danilo Gallinari.
Love Danilo.
Which was very much needed. I don't think they had a really strong small forward last year.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they've
had it. Mbah a Moute? I think it was Luke Mbah a Moute.
They haven't had a strong small forward since they acquired Chris Paul. That's always been a struggle for them. And you still got Austin Rivers. They got rid of Jamal Crawford. They should be an interesting team to watch this year.
They added Lou Williams as well.
They did add Lou Williams as well in that trade, and that's huge for them. So I think that's going to be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, I don't think they're as star-studded as some of these other teams are. They do have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, obviously, but I think that depth that's so needed in this game. Yeah, I think that's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, and we watched that trade. We didn't really talk about that trade over in the off-season moves, but that was an interesting trade. You really thought the Clippers would be screwed if they lost Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, but they kept Blake Griffin and got a lot out of Chris Paul, which
took the entire Rockets roster for Chris Paul.
The Clippers and Rockets didn't really even have to do that sign and trade, but they did, and they got a lot out of it. So good for the Clippers. They really not screwed after losing Chris Paul.
And now we both have the Timberwolves making the playoffs this year. Do we both have the idea that talent is going to override their lack of floor spacing? Because that's my thought. They have so much talent that the floor spacing issue won't be as much of an issue.
You have a team of Jeff Teague, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, and Karl Anthony Towns.
And Taj Gibson.
That team needs to make the playoffs.
It does need to make the playoffs.
I remember some people being really high on the Timberwolves last year. I had people talking to me about them being a 5th seed last year, which obviously didn't happen. But this team has the roster to make the playoffs, and I have them at the 5th, and you have them at the 7th.
Yep.
They're gonna be right there. Watch, guys. They're going to be right there. Jimmy Butler is a great player, and now he's got the roster around him.
He's also reunited with Tibbs.
You gotta love Tibbs. Gotta love that gravelly voice.
Yep. And then the top 4. You want to go ahead with it?
Well, one team we left out, the
Yep.
Trailblazers. I just want to touch on real quick. You
that's
had them 9th. I had them 6th.
Yep.
Why do you have them missing the playoffs?
I think that they didn't make good moves in the draft, getting Zach Collins and Caleb Swanigan.
Mm-hmm.
I still think their front court lacks. I think Joseph Nurkic was a great addition for them, but I don't see them making enough moves to where they are, that much better.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard is a fantastic backcourt to have. Not a whole lot of defense in that backcourt, though.
Mm-hmm.
And the front court is young.
They did lose Alan Crabb, too.
They did lose Alan
Who was
Crabb.
a good addition off the bench for them.
I don't know. I don't see them as a team that has enough in the way of experience to get to the playoffs.
I can agree with you at some points because they didn't really improve, but the way they improved with Jusuf Nurkic, they improved mightily after he came to the team.
Right.
And I just think that with a full season ahead of them, and now with some Jusuf getting those games under his belt with the Timberwolves, I think they could. I mean, not Timberwolves. I'm still on the Timberwolves, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really high. That's how high I am on them. But I think the Trailblazers have a nice big 3 in their per se with Jusuf Nurkic there, and you got CJ McCollum, probably one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA, and Damian Lillard, who's always gonna have a chip on his shoulder with whenever someone says he's not an elite point guard. That's a very talented team. You can't count them out, in my opinion.
Well, I definitely understand that. So it should be interesting to watch them this year.
And now, Nick,
The top 4.
Let's go to the top 4.
Top 4.
Top 4. What's your top 4?
4th place Thunder. 3rd place Rockets. 2nd place Spurs. 1st place the Golden State Warriors.
Now, interesting. I'm surprised you have your Thunder boys 4th, but I'll go with my list.
Mm-hmm.
I have the San Antonio Spurs 4th.
Ooh.
The Oklahoma City Thunder 3rd, the Rockets 2nd, and the Warriors 1st. So
We gotta talk about the Spurs.
let's talk about the Spurs. You have them 2nd, I have them 4th. The Spurs, now, they don't really get hit as hard as most teams do. If any other team had a player like Kawhi Leonard and the surrounding team around them, they would get killed, in my opinion. But you have a coach like Greg Popovich, and I just don't think they have the team to surround Kawhi Leonard. They didn't do anything to help him.
Well, they added Rudy Gay. That was their big addition.
That was
but
their
it's
big
really hard. Well, look at the team they had last year, right? Who is the 2nd best player behind Kawhi Leonard?
It was LaMarcus Aldridge.
Right, and they still have LaMarcus Aldridge. The roster, for the most part, is the same with the addition of Rudy Gay. I just find it really hard to bet against Greg Popovich and the way he's able to maximize potential out of players.
I completely agree with you, but I don't know. I think Kawhi is gonna ball out this season.
Right.
I think he's gonna ball out this season.
Right.
But I think LaMarcus Aldridge is gonna take a step back. That's my prediction for this team. He takes a step back, and then you're gonna start relying on those players like Rudy Gay, Patty Mills. That's the Spurs. They get shit done. Let's be honest. They get it done.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know about this team. It's Kawhi. I'm gonna say it, Kawhi needs help. Someone help Kawhi. He needs help.
Man, I don't know. I just see it as they were able to maximize the talent that they have.
They always find a way to
Right.
maximize.
They maximized
talent.
Pau Gasol last year on the defensive end. They maximized Patty Mills as a point guard. They maximized Manu off the bench. Or is he coming off the bench or is he starting?
No, he's coming off the bench.
He's coming off the bench. They maximized a 3-and-D guy like Danny Green. Now you have a guy like Rudy Gay, who's a 20-point scorer with the Sacramento Kings. And think about how poorly running. I don't want to say poorly.
You also
coached
have to
that team
remember
is.
that Rudy Gay is coming off a major injury. We have no idea how he's going to play this season.
That's true.
He could take a step back athleticism-wise. Well, he will take a step back athleticism-wise. Right. But let's see how it affects his game. He's always a question. He's going to be a question mark for the season, in my opinion. So, And now we gotta talk about your Thunder buddies.
Yep. I got them fourth.
You got them fourth. I have them third. I'm a little higher on them, I guess, than you are. So
Yeah.
let me hear it.
Well, I obviously have the Spurs second, so they can't overtake the Spurs, and I have them still behind the Rockets.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not super sure on how they'll play this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a question mark, and I think the Rockets, with the addition of Chris Paul and James Harden, I think they've already, we've seen them play in the Drew League, and they've already gelled so much. And just because the Rockets had the Thunder's number last year, I'm hesitant to put the Thunder above them without seeing them go head-to-head against each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Rockets are definitely going to still be better, CP3 and James Harden. It should be interesting seeing Westbrook and Paul George gel during the whole course of the regular season. It's going to be an interesting season. I don't know. I think I'm a little higher on the Thunder than you are, but but I think they're going to be really good this season. Yeah. I mean, Westbrook's going to ball out, and I think George can work with them. I don't think they're going to butt heads as much as people thought Kevin Durant and Westbrook bunched heads.
So now, why do you have the where do you have the Rockets?
I have the Rockets second.
You have the Rockets second. So you're higher on the Rockets than you are on the Spurs. Why is that?
I think it just comes down to star power with me, with CP3, James Harden, Eric Gordon coming off the Sixth Man of the Year, and then Clint Capella. They still are a good team, and it should be interesting. What if they get Melo? Do you think that they're better than the Spurs if they get Melo?
That's really tough.
That's an interesting question that I have for you, because the Rockets with Melo is you fill in that 3 spot where you're not sure if you're going to get a lot of scoring out of with Trevor Ariza, but Carmelo Anthony to the Rockets could still happen.
He would definitely be a lot more headaches for Kawhi Leonard and Greg Popovich on the defensive end, because now Kawhi Leonard has to worry about James Harden and Carmelo Anthony. You put LaMarcus Aldridge on Carmelo Anthony and hope that LaMarcus can do something to stop him. You still have to worry about Chris Paul. I mean, I don't see someone like Patty Mills really locking up Chris Paul so much. But I'm actually a little worried about the Rockets, and it's going back to that Clippers trade. They gave up a lot of their bench depth.
They did.
And their bench depth was what won them, in my opinion, one of the things that won them that series against the Thunder. Because when the Rockets' second team would come out and the Thunder second team would come out, the game would basically be won or lost right there. The Rockets would go on an insane run, and the starters wouldn't be able to stop them.
And that's even the funnier thing for me. The Rockets went away from their bench depth in that series against San Antonio, where we know that San Antonio went on to win. In that last game, I think they went a total of 6-man deep.
I think
they didn't have Montrezl Harrell play, and they didn't have Sam Dekker play, which I thought was very interesting. Very interesting. So,
but can you go 6-man deep for 82 games?
Absolutely.
Can you go 7-man deep for 82 games?
Absolutely not. But
that's my thing. Is it they can go 6-man deep for a 7-game series? You can't go 6 or 7-man deep for 82 games.
The thing is, they're definitely not going to do that the whole season.
Right.
Like you don't really need. You're not really going to worry about your bench depth in a game against like the Atlanta Hawks or a game against like the Phoenix Suns, but that is going to be very interesting in the playoffs to see if they do go back to just playing 6 men. Then it should be interesting. They'll be up right there. Those 2 through 4 could really switch up anyway.
It's very exciting too to see how strong the West has gotten.
Yeah. And
one's the Warriors.
Do we even need to talk about them? I mean, Kevin Durant.
Yep.
Klay Thompson.
Yep.
Steph Curry.
Draymond Green.
They
still kept Andre Iguodala. So it's just the core's there. There's no reason for them not to be at the number 1 spot.
Oh yeah, they're probably even going to play better now.
Right, because they've had a full season of mesh. It's going to be
full season of Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
he went down with that injury where everyone was like, "Oh, the Warriors are going to fall down now." That's Kevin Durant, and then Steph Curry and the Warriors kind of just proved you guys wrong.
So it's exciting. I actually am very much looking forward to this NBA season. I think there's a lot of things. Fun. A lot of things that are wide open and a lot of things that are set as well.
If you don't look at the big picture, which a lot of people do look at, where they think the finals is going to be set in stone, don't look at that. Look at the middle of the NBA. I know some people can't look against that, but it's going to be a fun season. And then we probably will get that Warriors-Cavs matchup again at the end of the season. And I think that's going to be fun. Look, this is a great rivalry, the Cavaliers and the Warriors. Let's love it.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. They're the 2 best teams in the league. let's love this rivalry that we have here.
Alrighty, so on to the player awards.
Player awards.
Let's do it.
For my MVP, I have Kawhi Leonard. Nick, who you have as
I'm
your...
smiling because I put down Kawhi Leonard.
I
as
saw you
well.
looking at my sheet, and I looked at yours. We didn't correlate with our.
No.
We have no idea what we chose for the standings and awards. Just to let you guys know, we're just going off the script.
Wow, so we both agree that Kawhi is gonna. I think Kawhi showed flashes last year of why he could have been the MVP. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think the narrative of Russell Westbrook and James Harden kind of overtook what he was doing, but I think now that that's going to die down a little bit with James Harden getting a true second option and Russell Westbrook getting a true second option, they may not be as explosive, and I think that's where Kawhi Leonard showing himself as a two-way player is going to be is going to be huge.
Oh yeah, and with what I was saying before, when I thought that Kawhi needs more help and that I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be as good as he was in the past couple of seasons. That's just what I think. I think Kawhi is just going to bolster this team, and he's going to keep them afloat with the best teams in the West. You know,
he's only 25, I believe.
That's ridiculous.
He's 25, I believe.
Claw baby,
all day. And then Rookie of the Year, I have Dennis Smith Jr.
Dennis Smith Jr. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As I counter that with Lonzo Ball.
Oh man,
big ballers, baby.
Oh man, so give me why Lonzo's gonna win it.
Well, one thing is Lonzo is obviously a special talent. His passing, he could shoot even with that weird form he's got. And you know what it is? He's gonna be in LA. He's gonna be in prime possession, prime TV, prime Showtime. If he plays well and he puts up, even if Dennis Smith Jr. does put up similar stats to Lonzo Ball, being on the Lakers, the media's gonna hype that up. So
that's fair. I have Dennis Smith, and it goes back to that Mavericks thing of Rick Carlisle getting so much out of Yogi Ferrell, and Yogi Ferrell I don't think is athletic and as much of a talent as Dennis Smith Jr. That might be, I guess, a little bit of a hot take, but Dennis Smith Jr. played fantastic in the summer league. He played. You know, I don't know if he played as well as Lonzo. I didn't watch a whole lot, but the highlights that I saw, he's explosive. He was explosive, and I think he's going to get a lot of minutes in a Mavericks team that, you know, will try and fight for a spot, try and fight for a playoff spot, and won't exactly get there. And as Mark Cuban said, they like to tank and toss in their younger players when the season's over, so that may happen as well.
So one thing I do look for Dennis Smith Jr. is a lot of things that I saw and heard was Dennis Smith played for North Carolina State.
Yeah.
And they didn't make the big tourney.
Yep. So,
and what I saw a lot of is when they were losing those big games, it seemed like he got lost on defense and he got lost. Like he would lose a step on the team. Like he would mentally get out. That's one thing I look for him to improve on. I do like Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know if he's going to be a Rookie of the Year, but I think he'll be up there statistically, especially with that Mavericks team that's rebuilding.
Yeah. All right, on to the sixth man. Who do you have at sixth?
Sixth man, I have former Knickerbocker Derrick Rose.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I have Eric Gordon.
Eric Gordon.
I have Eric Gordon going back to back.
You have Eric Gordon back to back, which is very interesting considering the sixth man award. You never really hear someone going back to back. So, I mean, obviously we know Eric Gordon was very good off the bench, and he's not going to get a lick of starting time with James Harden and Chris Paul.
Exactly.
And the backcourt. So it should be interesting. He'll definitely get you points off the bench, and he'll definitely be right there.
I definitely think so. I think, obviously that Chris Paul, James Harden, he's not going to start. And I think going back to that, that the Rockets are losing a lot of their bench depth, he's going to be called upon more to score even more when he comes off the bench. There's going to be no Lou Williams or anything like that, so he's going to be...
No Sam Decker.
He comes off the bench, he's going to be the guy that needs to get hot and keep that second team going.
True. Good point.
And you have...
I have Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose, he's still in the NBA because he can score the basketball. So that's what the sixth man award is. It's scoring the basketball. Whoever tallies the most points, to be honest. So I look for Derrick Rose. I think he might average like 16 points off the bench this season, and I'm not gonna ride on him as being a player that should be a starting point guard in the NBA. I do not think that at all. And with a team that struggles on defense as much as they do, he could be unplayable at times, like he was for the Knicks. But I look to him to be the sixth man of the year. He's going to score a lot off the bench, and that should be interesting too. As I might add, I don't know if you've heard anything about Isaiah Thomas when he's going to be ready to play.
I haven't.
You haven't. I haven't either. So we may have to see Derrick Rose start a couple games towards the beginning of the season. I'm not sure what that's gonna be like. I don't know what's gonna happen.
My only question mark with Derrick Rose is his attitude in New York did not seem that positive. Obviously, he had that whole incident where he left and didn't exactly tell anybody about it. My worry is that he doesn't fully buy into the Cavs. I think he at this stage in his career, he'll look at the Cavs and go, okay, well, I'm gonna contend for an NBA championship on this team. I gotta buy in. I gotta do what this team wants me to do. But I also think there's that part of him that still wants to be a star.
Yeah.
And for that, I think he might butt heads with Tyronn Lue. He might butt heads with LeBron James a little bit. And that's where my worry lies. I do agree that he should be a solid off-the-bench option.
Yeah. And it goes back to me with LeBron being that head master over there in Cleveland. And he got J.R. Smith to really get it together after he was traded from the Knicks, and I looked for him to do that the same way with Derrick Rose. It didn't work with Kyrie. Obviously, we know he didn't want to play with LeBron anymore. But I think a player as old as Derrick Rose would want to buy in more with LeBron James. So I looked for him to really ball out this season. I don't consider him a top talent, but he could definitely be one of the best six men we've ever seen.
Oh, okay, that sounds good.
So DPOY, what do you got?
I got Draymond.
You got Draymond, one of the best defenders in the league, obviously, and I got Rudy Gobert.
And you got Rudy Gobert. So you think this is the year where Rudy doesn't get? I don't want to say he got gypped of a defensive player of the year award last year, but you think he'll break out? He'll show himself that he is a better defender than Draymond.
Yes, I do think so. I mean, it really depends. Like you got this season, like the Jazz aren't going to be as good, so Draymond and Kawhi get more credit for being good defensive players on good teams. Rudy Gobert, the Jazz probably will fall off, but you gotta look at the way he protects the rim. He's a great rim protector. It's pretty insane, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And I think this is the first season
I agree with
he gets the recognition.
I can see that. My only thing with Draymond is I think last year him winning the DPOY has opened the floodgates for people to actually start really, really looking at his defensive abilities. And I mean, he's able to guard 1 through 4. With little to no problem. He has no fear with that. He's an undersized power forward and is still a really strong defender.
Yeah.
I think, just him as they continue on with these Warriors teams is just going to get more and more credit as people really look at what he does on that team.
And one thing I will say about Draymond Green, as I don't mean to discredit Draymond Green not giving him this defensive player of the year. I think he's going to be right there, obviously. I'm just taking a shot in the dark, but Draymond Green is one of the players that I would give I don't really talk about this much, but he's like a clutch defender. Like he wants to guard the guy who's going to bring up the ball for that last shot opportunity. I don't think you don't really see that much, other than like there's maybe like Tony Allen or even Kawhi, but he wants to guard that guy.
He's not
pretty
afraid. Vocal about it too. I think Kawhi does want to. Maybe. I just don't think he says it.
Yeah, he's not as vocal as Draymond.
Like Draymond will be that guy if the point guard's coming down the floor with 25 seconds left, like slapping the floor in front of him. Like
like he's gonna intimidate you. Meanwhile, Kawhi Leonard, like someone's like Kawhi, get on, and he's like, okay, like where Draymond Green is screaming at the guy.
So
probably.
We both don't think Kawhi will have a bounce back and get a DPOY again.
I think he's gonna be too. He's gonna have his hands full on the offensive end, and his defensive game is gonna be a little discredited, to be honest. But I think he'll be right there with the other. He'll get the votes. He'll be first team. But let's move on. And most improved player, who you got?
Dante Exum.
Dante Exum. You were talking about him before with the Jazz.
Yep.
So I know you're high on him.
Yep. His summer league exploits with Donovan Mitchell were fantastic, and now that Gordon Hayward's gone, and the number one option on Utah might be Rudy Gobert. In all honesty, with a lack of like a real number one option, I hope Dante Exum can get some more looks. Hopefully he'll get some time at point guard. I think is that his favorite position, or is it shooting guard?
I would say point guard.
Yeah. So you have Ricky Rubio starting. I think Dante Exum could certainly get a whole bunch of minutes, and hopefully he can show his flashes that made players or made teams get so high on him.
That's true. That's weird. I think that's a hot take right there with Dante Exum as most improved player. I don't think anyone would probably think about him, but for me, I I kind of went with D'Angelo Russell with being on the Brooklyn Nets now. This is his team's. Give him the keys. No Brook Lopez. He needed. I think he needed a new scenario for his career. You know, Magic Johnson wasn't high on him, so I think like I said before, I think he could be an all-star caliber player with the Brooklyn Nets this season. He's going to get a lot of playing time. He's going to get a lot of take the shot, like clutch time performance. He's going to be the first option. It's going to be fun to watch how D'Angelo Russell progresses this season.
There's an interesting similarity we have with players where they've either come into a situation where they're given more opportunities, or they've changed teams and now they're given more opportunities. So it definitely should be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, I'm really rooting for Russell, even though I'm a Knicks fan and he's on the Nets now. But I do like D'Angelo Russell. I think he's going to be a very good basketball player for the rest of his career.
And finally, Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year, I had the Thunder coach. I had Donovan.
Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan. I have him. If the Thunder do finish third in the West, I do think Billy Donovan deserves to be the Coach of the Year.
I actually have Scott Brooks.
Scott Brooks,
the head coach of the Washington Wizards.
Interesting. So we both chose the coaches of teams that we had third place in our standings.
Yep.
I don't know if you really put that into the thought when you made your predictions. Did you?
Not so much. I just with the way that Washington Wizards team is progressing, in the way players like Kelly Oubre would hope to progress this season even more. I just think Scott Brooks is really able to get a lot out of John Wall. He's able to get a lot out of Bradley Beal, and he gets his players to buy in. And if the Wizards have as good a season as we want them to have, I think Scott Brooks should get that recognition.
Interesting. I agree with you. I thought about him. I also thought about Coach Bradley Stevens, and those guys are always going to be up there. Popovich, D'Antoni.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Coach of the Year. But I do think, for me, saying that the Thunder, if they do get that third seed, I think Billy Donovan would win that award.
I will say the second option, if the Spurs do finish second with the roster that they have, I do think Greg Popovich.
Oh yeah, if the Spurs come in second this year, Popovich deserves a statue in front of the San Antonio.
I think that's already coming. I think
probably.
That's probably already in the works.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so
gotta love Greg.
We are through everything, it looks like.
Yep.
We've done it all.
We talked a lot in this podcast. We had a lot of information coming off of the off-season where you guys didn't get us to hear anything. This is our first episode, so obviously, thank you for your time. If you listen to the whole podcast, let us know what you think. You could add us at Rotoden. You could add us at our personal accounts. I think we'll be posting our predictions in case you missed anything on our personal Twitters. And,
yeah, we could definitely do that.
And we will post it at the Outlet Podcast Pod.
Outlet Pass Pod.
Outlet Pass Pod. I screwed that up so many times. You guys have no idea, and I came up with the name. So let us know what you think. Add us your predictions too. We would love to we will mention them on the next podcast. We always welcome tweets. So yeah, let us know what you think. We're very new to this, so
yeah. And hopefully we'll be back around for a second episode.
Oh, definitely. Unless you guys really hate us, then I don't think I can show my face on Twitter anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and in that case, we'll just be deleting Twitter.
Oh, there you go. So, thank you guys so much for listening. My name's Jason.
My name's Nick.
Thanks for watching and listening, and have a good night.
You can't watch a podcast.
Yeah.